Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Horror Analysis with me, Drew, who just spilled his drink. Hi, folks. Right in the trash can, too. Alright. Today we're continuing with Horror Anthropology. Click the button, click the button. Horror in or by different cultures. Today, we move on to the orange section. The green, of course, was East Asia. The blue was Southeast Asia, and the orange is South Asia. Actually, I found a new map yesterday. Is it going to come up, though? Actually, also on Wikipedia, which will be my next one. But it is not coming up, which means I have to reformat it. It's fine. Anyway, so orange. South Asia. This is probably a better map for you. India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, the Maldives. Occasionally Burma, which is the one to the side of Bangladesh and India. And occasionally Afghanistan, which is the one above Pakistan? Yeah, because the one to the other side is Iran. Is it? Or am I getting confused? Not my area of expertise. I'm not a geographer. Okay, hold on. That's that. That's that. No, I'm just confused. I'm not sure which one's which. As I said, not my area of expertise. Geography was... Well, that area of geography is not really my strong suit. Nor is geography in general. Alright, but I'm more organized than I was last time. This is the second time I'm doing the video for South Asia. South Asia has a pretty big catalog of film. India, the Bollywood, quote, Pakistan has its own Hollywood. These all seem to have their own Hollywood. There's Bollywood for India, Lollywood for Pakistan, Dollywood for Bhutan. Where's that? Bangladesh. Dollywood with a DH or DA, some depending on. I was not able to find anything for Bangladesh in horror. They have lots of movies. They're coming out with their first sci-fi movie pretty soon. Not yet, but pretty soon. I was not able to find anything for Sri Lanka. They have a lot of dramas. It's mostly dramas and a couple of action movies. But no horror. Yet. India, Pakistan, both have horror. I was able to find one movie for Nepal and one movie for Bhutan. Put that map back up. So one for Nepal and one for Bhutan. Quite a few for India and a couple for Pakistan. Oh yes, I know what I was going for. I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert in these areas. There is a YouTube channel that I did find who does a lot of Indian horror film reviews. Actually, every Piper Dork is the name of the channel. And every February she does a bunch of horror Indian film reviews, and every December she does a lot of American, British, Western, I guess, horror film reviews. So I would recommend checking out her channel. Very cool stuff. Piper Dork, Piperdork. She actually turned me on to the Ramsey brothers. She was trying to... I was doing a search. I wanted to say, hey, maybe I can find a a Bollywood horror movie that that's dubbed in English, just so I can get a feel for it. That's what I did this weekend. It was weird. I'm definitely going to go over it. But let me actually. I forgot to get this page up. I'm gonna get this page up. Minimize. That one there, and that one there. Nice. All right. And it was a Ramsey Brothers film. The Ramsey Brothers did a lot of the Indian horror movies in the 90s. Sorry, 80s, early 90s. Did the majority. I think they actually started in the 70s, to be honest, but from what I was able to find out. And I watched Virana, 1988. Horror comedy, I suppose. Musical, because it had the song and dance, and it's really weird for my mind to get around a horror plot being interrupted by a girl singing or a guy and a girl dancing and singing. Won't You Listen to My Heart, I think was the name of the song, or something along those, the lyrics in the song. Kinda 80s, 70s pop, teeny bopper stuff. Kinda weird for a horror movie. There's some comedic elements, farcical elements, but good stuff overall. I actually enjoyed it, and it was really long. It was 2 hours long. Apparently most Bollywood Indian movies are closer to 3 hours long, and horror movies are shorter. But over 2 hours for a horror movie is a lot. Anyway, but I did watch it, and it was enjoyable. I recommend it. Virana. There are, oh goodness, lots and lots of Indian horror movies. Let me actually see if I can get in lots. 122. So 122 on the Wikipedia list. And there's some, they had the heyday in the 80s, but there's also, in the 2000s, there's also quite a bit of ghost stuff, just mirroring, I guess, would be the American market, or the Hollywood market. Yeah, 90s, 2000s, 2002. There's quite a few. Some of these are psychological thrillers too. Ooh, some of these are creepy. Sorry, I'm going through the list. I actually have the lists up here. I actually wanted to, the first time I made this video and failed, I didn't have the list, and I was trying to read these out. So I figured I'll put this up. The India, there's lots. There's actually an article on Bollywood horror films, which explains some of this. And then there's the category : Indian horror films, which lists them, and you can click on each to get a synopsis of each movie. There was and then there's the Indian television series, which is also a list, and most of those are from the 2000s. Then there's Pakistani horror films. There's about 6 of them on this list, with one of them I'm going to talk about a bit more because I found it very interesting, and I found some clips of it online. Zindalash. And then the one Nepalese movie, Kagbeni, and then the one Bhutanese movie, Bakcha, as well. So the Indian horror movies, I mean, they began in the 40s and sort of went on from there. The 70s and 80s were the Ramsey brother era, and then into the 90s, and then it goes into more of the Americanized or standard ghost movies, I'm not sure how much of those are have musical interludes. It was interesting, to say the least. The article part seems to say it's declining after the 90s, but there's still quite a few from the 2000s as well on the list. Let me get rid of that one. I'm going to not get rid of that one. Yeah, there's a lot on here. Click. Yeah, some of these are just takeoffs of other movies. Click 2010 is a takeoff of Shudder from the Thailand one that we went over last time. Virana, actually. Cool. Creepy Forest is what Virana stands for, the one I read. Or, not read. Watched this weekend. Yeah. I should have clicked on this yesterday. Oh, I was right too. Anyway, but so okay, the Ramsey brothers. The Ramsey brothers, I guess, is probably who I should talk about first. Let me actually get to that article, and I can actually give you the names. The Ramsey brothers are 7 brothers: Kumar Ramsey, Keshu Ramsey, Tulsi Ramsey, Karan Ramsey, Shyam Ramsey, Gangu Ramsey, and Arjun Ramsey. I'm probably mispronouncing most of those. They produced, directed, wrote most of these horror with comedic elements movies in the 80s and 90s. Beginning in the 70s, I suppose. And produced a TV series in the 90s called Z Horror Show. So I watched Virana, which had English subtitles, and it had the full movie on YouTube. So I watched it. It was good. The interrupting the movie for singing was really weird for me. I don't think it was weird. It's weird in general if you're used to that sort of genre, but it's weird for me. There's a lot of analogs between the movie and like The Exorcist. The little girl is possessed and she ends up killing her mother when the demon inside of her does anyway. And then sort of has psychic powers to make things break and die. And there's a lot of analogs between it and Dracula. In the ending scene, or the opening scene as well, where the witch, demon, vampire is killed, the hero uses an ohm instead of a cross and puts it in the demon's face, and the demon goes back to her coffin. And then at the end, the demon is brought to... The coffin is, brought to the temple of Shiva. Shiva? Shiva. And that's what I had problems with yesterday. I couldn't figure out which one it was, but it is Shiva. And then the witch, monster, vampire, demon really dies. Finally. True full death. And then melts in a sort of the ending scene of Count Blackula. There wasn't a lot of blood. There was no nudity, obviously. Indian censors being what they are, they don't even allow kissing. There's not going to be any nudity. There's no... The blood is very slim. Like, there was a scene where a guy got sawed in half. Not in half this way, like at the waist. It was this way, straight down. And in a lumber mill, which is kind of cool. But and then you see the body, and it's the guy who's laying down, and he's got a trickle of blood somewhere on his face. I'm like, really? That's the extent of the gore? I don't know. If it were made in America, it would have been gross. Would have been awesome, but it would have been gross. Yeah, it's difficult to get in the Indian horror mindset, but once you get into the Indian horror mindset, you enjoy it quite a bit. I personally don't have the patience to watch a 2+ hour movie for the scares and then be interrupted by music interludes. I can't see me watching a lot more. I don't think there's a lot more that that are on YouTube that have English subtitles. If you are interested in more, I recommend you go to Piper Dork. She recommended one of them that had a documentary in there. She's recommending the DVDs, but I went and looked at that DVD, and it was like $35, and that's too much for a movie for me. So the Pakistani movie that I was looking at, I couldn't find the whole thing, but I did find bits and pieces of it, was called Zinda Lash, or The Living Corpse, or Dracula in Pakistan. This one really mirrors Dracula. The opening scene was available, not overdubbed or anything. You didn't understand what they're saying, but it's essentially the Jonathan Harker going to Dracula's castle, just in Pakistan. There's a scene where the weird sisters are given the baby in swaddling clothes. It's obviously not a baby in the scene. It was made in 1967. Let me take a look here. 67, yeah. Um, the weird sisters, the female vampires, the brides of Dracula, attack / seduce Jonathan Harker's character. And then Dracula tells him to go away and gives them a baby. Now, the baby in this movie is, probably a 2x4, about this big, wrapped in a blanket from head to toe. It's obviously not even close to human baby shape or size. It's quite a bit longer than a human baby. Longer than my shoulders anyway. And wrapped in this weird blanket. But it's obviously meant to be a baby, but it's not a baby. 1967, I'm not going to get too caught up on the bad special effects. This is the first Pakistani movie to be rated X. The Pakistani censors are pretty hardcore. It was almost banned in its original release because the censors felt the movie was too vulgar. In its original release, all the dance sequences were deleted because the censors felt that women were shown to be too sexually provocative. I love Wikipedia for these little tidbits. A woman had a heart attack in the theater when it was shown for the first time. Cool stuff. The dance scenes I was able to find. The dance scene by the female vampire to seduce Jonathan Harker's character. The analog of Jonathan Harker's character. Obviously, I don't know what the characters' names are because I don't speak Urdu. And I wasn't able to find anything with subtitles. It was kind of sexy in a 1967 way, as in it was a girl sort of doing shimmying in capri pants. A little shimmy. I'm not going to shimmy for you guys, but I'll just move my shoulders around and pretend that I'm shimmying. It was a little shimmy. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. That's ridiculous. And then a couple of the other dancers were shimmying like too. Maybe some belly dancing with no belly showing. Was the extent of how provocative they were. The blood on the teeth, where she bites Jonathan Harker's character, Jonathan Harker analog, before Dracula analog comes in and breaks up the party. There's some blood there. Maybe that's part of it. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Akil Harker. Is the guy's name apparently. It's kind of cool. The clips are available. You can check out the clips. Some of them are just the dancing parts of it, but it's the first one on the Pakistani list on here. Chronologically, anyway. Obviously, it's the last one alphabetically. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, the other two, of course... Kagbeni from Nepal, Nepal being purple, is essentially... It's based on The Monkey's Paw by W. W. Jacobs in 1902. Let me see if I actually can find that, if I can give you any more information. Cagbeni. I really don't know if I'm pronouncing that one correctly either. W.W. Jacobs. It's essentially, it's 2008, and it's the first horror movie to be made in Nepal. Um, it's essentially the monkey's paw, which is the mummified monkey's paw grants wishes, but they go wrong. Apparently, in this case, they go wrong if it's not the wishes aren't made by the owner; it's made by someone else. If the owner makes wishes, they're fine, but if someone else makes wishes, they're cursed. So, and then there's Bak Cha. Is the Bhutanese one. The orange. Which gives no absolutely no information at all. Weird. No, I got. No, it doesn't really have a lot of information for Bak Cha, other than it's the first horror film produced in Bhutan, and that was in 2007. So, unfortunately, I don't really have a lot for that. No information. Apparently, it does have musical interludes as well, as because most of Bhutanese movies do. Oh goodness, is this going to be that short of a video? I suppose it can be. What am I missing? Okay, South Asia. Let's actually go through the list. India, we talked about. There's 121. I talked in depth about Varana, or at least talked about the analogs a bit. I mentioned Piper Dork and her YouTube channel about Indian Bollywood horror movies. Pakistan, the Maroon. I mentioned Dracula in Pakistan. The other ones? What were the other ones? Sort of a. Well, that one's sci-fi. That one doesn't really say anything about the film, except for the cast. Now, some of these, obviously, in some of these movies on these lists that I'm putting up on here, there's not a lot of information on there, or the information is not very informative. What is this one? Oh, it's a slasher film. Cool. Yeah. The second one, the only other one that really has any information about it is Zibakana, um, which is a slasher type film from Pakistan. Kinda Texas Chainsaw Massacre-y, but with your standard, the girl who lives is the good one, and the people who don't live are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. The standard Scream fare of Scream rules of surviving a horror movie. Let's see what else is on the list here. Nepal Purple, Kagbani, based on the monkey's paw. Sri Lanka, the other kind of purple. They all seem to be dramas, a couple action films. Burma, which is the green that's not marked, to the side of Bangladesh and India. The one above Andaman Sea. They don't seem to have anything. Like I said, they mentioned them in the Southeast Asia version. However, in this case, on this map, they
call it South Asia. In this map, they call it Southeast Asia. So, but nonetheless, Bangladesh, there was not any horror movies. Most of them were dramas or romantic comedies, or actually the Bangladeshi ones. There's one sci-fi that was mentioned before. There's some very odd combinations, like action romance. There's a lot of action romance with like a guy with a gun in his hand and a rose in his mouth while he's holding onto a girl. He's got the gun, he's got the girl in his arm, he's got a rose in his mouth. Sort of like Zorro-ish, I'm guessing, for action romance. Oh, and they had like action drama too, which is not really a subgenre I see as what I'm used to. Afghanistan, I think that's more Middle East, which I'll get into next time. And Middle East doesn't have a lot of horror movies. Maldives, I wasn't able to find anything for the Maldivian cinema. Bhutanese, I found one movie, and I didn't find any information on it other than the name Bakcha. And of course, I had that one up there already. I had the list. Maybe I'll try to put the list up on the links on the screen. But here are their links if you are interested in the Wikipedia articles or lists. Now, of course, horror anthropology, there's the differences through the culture's histories, and there's also the differences between the dominant religion of the region. I mentioned before, I did mention before, but this is going to be the only section that's really going to be dealing with Hinduism. East Asian and Southeast Asian dominated very much so by Buddhism. Even if they're not necessarily Buddhist countries now, the influence of Buddhist mythology influenced their horror, influenced their what they think of as magic and mystery and fantasy, I suppose. So their horror is, of course, affected by that sort of thing. Of course, some of the island nations, Philippines and Indonesia, will have quite a bit of Islamic influence. And of course, so does Pakistan, being vast majority Islamic. I know Islam is a very big Indian minority. 30% of India is Islamic. So it has an effect, but most of the is Indian supernatural thinking is Hindu based. So when there's the monster in the being held at bay not by a cross like there would be in Europe, but by an Om, essentially serving the exact same purpose. And instead of you know holding a piece of the wafer, the host, to destroy the demon, they put it in the room with the statue of Shiva. I keep wanting to say Kali, and that's not right. Shiva. To destroy the witch demon thing. Oh. So in Pakistan, moving on to the Middle East, into Turkey when we get into that section. Where am I here? Oops. Oh yeah, it is wrong. Sorry. Yeah. So, let's see, hold on a second. When I get into... Hey, light green. Middle East, and I'll also go over Eastern Europe in that section. I'm going to try to... yeah, I think next video I'm going to try to do Middle East, which will, of course, be Islamic influenced, as well as Eastern Europe, Turkey, some of these other countries that aren't on here. I'm not even sure what they would be called. I keep trying to click on this to bring it up a section, but I can't do that. It's a picture. Anyway, and then we're going to go over, I guess, sliding from Islam next time into Eastern Orthodox. See if, Greek, I'll probably get into the Greek area, Russian area. See what I could find in that area. Hopefully, quite a bit. I'll probably swing through Western Europe pretty quickly and then go on to other areas like South America and Africa if I can find anything, which I haven't been able to thus far. Okay, folks. Yeah. I'm not even sure how many videos I have left anymore. I was thinking about doing this into like 2 or 3 parts, but it's looking like it's going to be 6 or 7. That's okay. Actually, I'm enjoying this now that I'm starting to get into it. Starting to find my feet a little bit more. Still very confused, and still have the caveat: if you think I'm doing a bad job, please do it better and let me learn from you, because I'm not an anthropologist in any way, shape, or form. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I just want someone else to do this better than me so I can learn. Alright, folks. Continue with horror anthropology next time on Horror Analysis with me, Drew. Have a great night. See you next time.